Welcome to 24 Hours of PASS Summit Preview 2018. We're excited you could join us today for Reza's session, Exploring Sharing Strategies in Power BI. This 24 Hours of PASS consists of 24 consecutive live webinars delivered by expert speakers from the PASS community. The sessions will be recorded and posted online after the event. You will receive an email letting you know when the recordings are available. My name is Donna Johnson. I'm a SQL developer with Baptist Memorial Healthcare Corporation in Memphis, Tennessee, and I am pleased to moderate this session. I have a few introductory slides before I hand over the reins to Reza. Next slide. If you require technical assistance, please type your question into the question pane located on the right side of your screen and someone will assist you. This question pane is also where you may ask any questions throughout the presentation. Feel free to enter your questions at any time, and once we get to the Q&A portion of the session, I'll read your questions aloud to the speaker. You are able to zoom in on the presentation content by using the zoom button located on the top of the presentation window. Please note that there will be a short evaluation at the end of the session. Your feedback is important to us, so please take a moment to complete it. This will pop up after the webinar ends in your web browser. Next slide. I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, Quest. The staging of 24 Hours of PASS would not be possible without their generous support, and they are the reason this event is available free of charge. If you would like to learn more about Quest and sign up for information on how they can help you, please visit the sponsors page of the 24 Hours of PASS website. Next slide. PASS is a global, not-for-profit association where data professionals connect, share, and learn. Joining PASS is free and gives you access to hundreds of online content, live, virtual, and in-person events, the ability to join local groups in your area, and the opportunity to attend the annual conference, PASS Summit. PASS is a great way to connect with like-minded professionals, increase your technical expertise, and grow your career. Next slide. This 24 Hours of PASS session is presented by Reza. Reza is an author, trainer, speaker, and consultant. He has been a Microsoft Data Platform MVP for 8 years, specializing in Microsoft Business Intelligence and data movement. Reza has worked with Microsoft BI technologies more than 15 years. He has previously published and is currently writing several books. You can find his technical articles on his blog at www.radacad.com. In addition to authoring several books, he speaks at many conferences, and you can find the details at radacad.com. Next slide. And without further ado, here is Reza with Exploring Sharing Strategies in Power BI. And to kick this off, you'll see a poll pop up. Please indicate your experience. Go ahead, Reza.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Donna, for your introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I'm Reza, the speaker of this session, all the way from New Zealand, Auckland. Donna from Memphis. It's quite interesting time zoning we are working on. So it is 6 a.m. my time. I think it should be around afternoon or evening in US time. Okay, I'll go ahead and start quickly. I'm just waiting for a second to see the result of the vote, to see how many people have worked with Power BI, how much experience you've got already. Okay, Donna, I don't see the poll result yet. Is it something coming up?
The 57% are beginners, 32% are intermediate, 11% are advanced,
Okay,
75%
good.
voted.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So let's get this started. So Donna did the introduction. I don't do any more introduction for myself. I'll talk about the agenda, what we are going to talk about today. So I'll talk about different methods of sharing, and methods of sharing that I'm talking about are all online methods of sharing. I will not talk about copying a Power BI file and giving it to your colleague. That is not considered as a method of sharing in this session. Or I will not talk about Power BI report server. I will not talk about methods that are not interactive, like exporting to PowerPoint and giving to others. We will only talk about methods that you can share a Power BI report and it is interactive and it is web-based, which then becomes 6 different methods of sharing. The first one is dashboard or report sharing. It was first only available on dashboard. These days you can do dashboard or report. We'll talk about workspaces. What are the benefits of having workspaces in Power BI? How Power BI apps comes into play and help us in delivering the solution, Power BI solution. We'll talk about publishing a Power BI report to web and what are pros and cons of that method. We'll talk about embedding Power BI report in a SharePoint online solution and the Power BI embedded, which enables us to embed Power BI in any custom application. At the end, depends on how much time we get, we'll talk about row-level security. And that is like more beginner of the discussion that I will have later on. In past summit, my session would be all about row-level security. So this can be good introduction to that session. Okay, so let's start. The first method of sharing I'm going to talk about is the most basic way of sharing. It was called dashboard sharing for a long time because you've been able to do that sharing only on the dashboard. But now you can do dashboard sharing and report sharing. So not a, let's say, a great naming convention for that. We call it basic sharing, or some people call it sharing dashboards or reports. It's a very quick way of sharing. You basically select a Power BI report and then you share it with anyone you like. It is quite quick. I'll show you in a example here. This is a Power BI dashboard that I have in my screen, and I want to share this dashboard with someone. Let me enable my zooming too while I'm speaking. There is always a share button at the top of dashboard or report. You can basically click on that share button and you can enter email address of people whom you want to share this solution with. Like, for example, I can share this with my other account. Or you can add any other people you want to share with. And you can include a message that, hello, this is shared with you, have a look at this, give me some feedback, that kind of message. One of the important options that you have here is to allow others to be able to reshare this content with others or not. That is the only access you can give to them. So when you share it with them, if they have this access, they can also share it with others. If they don't, they cannot do anything. They can use the report themselves, but they cannot share it with others. This way of sharing is read only. So I'm going to uncheck this option. And also the next option is if I want that person to receive an email notification that this is shared with them or not, I'll remove that as well. That's pretty much it. I click on share and this content is now shared with that user, right? So how the users will see this content, I'm going to another browser, which is my user view. This is a different browser, and in this different browser, I logged in with that user account. To access content which is shared with me in that way, I can go to shared with me section. Everyone has a shared with me section in Power BI website. I go to shared with me and I see that this dashboard is shared already. This sample dashboard, it is shared just seconds ago by Reza, and I can click on that dashboard. I will see that exactly the same dashboard. If I click on a report on that dashboard, I will have access to the report. I can easily interact with the report. I can slice and dice the data. I can change the slicer value. I have full interaction with the report. However, I cannot edit the report. Edit report access is disabled for me. I'm only a read-only user, which is all fine. This is a way of sharing which you want users to play with that report and dashboard and give you some feedback, right? So this is the first method of sharing. Let me go back to my slide again. So this is the first method of sharing. With this method of sharing, you give your audience viewer only access. You can only give them ability to reshare it. In case you want to stop that sharing, that is also quite easy option. You go to the same share section. Under access, you will see this user has an access, and you can either remove that access or this time enable resharing as well. There are two levels: read, and reshare. So pretty much basically how it works. So what are pros of this method? Pros of this method is very quick. It's very fast. As you can see, you just click on share and it works perfectly fine. Very simple, let's say, to set up. What are disadvantages of this method? A number of disadvantages. Number one is I can share one object at a time, one dashboard or one report at a time. When I share this dashboard, only this dashboard is shared. Now imagine I have 15 dashboards. I have to go to every single dashboard and click on share, do that sharing. Managing multiple objects is not easy. Maintenance cost of that would be higher because you need to control every single one of those separately. That's one disadvantage. Disadvantage number two is that what if you want to share it with some people and you want to give them edit access? With this method of sharing, you cannot give them edit access. Let's say you are in a developer environment, a team of Power BI developer. You want to share content between our team and you want to give others edit access. With this method, you cannot give them edit access. That is why we go to the second method of sharing, which is workspaces. Power BI workspaces at the moment work with Office 365 workspaces, but this association may be changed later on. That is still work in progress. We have to see what's happening there. Each workspace is like a folder which you can have multiple people having access to that folder. Consider that as like a shared folder scenario. Everyone, when you publish a Power BI report, you are basically publishing it into your own workspace, somewhere called My Workspace. Power BI workspaces are giving you ability to create different workspace, give different people access to it. You can give them edit access or view access, and you can have multiple objects in it. You can have multiple dashboards and reports. This will solve the issues that we had in the previous method of sharing. Right now, you can see in my Power BI account, I have a section which is My Workspace. By default, everything that you publish will go to this section. In My Workspace, I have dashboards, reports, workbooks, dataset. But I can also create a new workspace, or I may be already part of an existing workspace. I'll just create one to show you how it works. I'll create an app workspace and I will call it, let's say, past 24 hours workspace. A workspace can be private or public. In this case, I want this to be private. And the important option here, you can choose, does users has access to edit the content or view only? Something that you could not do in basic sharing in method one. But in this method, you can do that. So I will go and say, okay, members can edit Power BI content. And then you can add members here. This can be their email address, or this can be even their Active Directory groups, right? I'll add their email addresses. I add the email address of my test account here. And when you add it, you can assign them as a member or as an admin. Admin is a person who can also control the workspace, access setting, add more people into it, and configuration like that. I'm going to add this as member. You can add as many as people you want. Then save. That creates a new workspace. This would be a workspace that at the moment doesn't have any content in it. As you can see, this is welcome to this new workspace. I do not have any dashboards, reports, data sets. Nothing is available there at all. I just see this welcome information because there's no content in this workspace right now. Okay, how am I going to have content in this workspace? At the moment that we are doing this session, the only way of having content in a workspace is by publishing it from Power BI Desktop. This is a Power BI Desktop environment, and I'm going to click on publish on this report. When I click on publish, it will ask me which workspace I want this to be published on, right? So you can choose my workspace, or you can choose the workspace that we have created right now. I will select the workspace I have created right now. And it will take a little bit of time. Yep, you can see it is published now. I'll go back to my workspace. I do a quick refresh just to see what I've got in my workspace. So now in my workspace, in the report section, I see this report, and I may have other reports as well. So at the moment, to publish content into your workspace, you have to do that from Power BI Desktop, but later on, Power BI team is working on ability to move or copy content from one workspace to another workspace. Not right now, in the future. Okay, so I've got the report, I've got data set, and in this workspace, you can have multiple reports, multiple data sets, multiple dashboards, and everyone who is also part of this workspace will have access to the same content. I'll go to my other account again, do a refresh to get list of my workspaces refreshed. And then I go to the workspace section. And here I see this workspace. This is the same workspace shared with this account. I click on it and I see all the reports, dashboards, data sets. And if I click on the report, I see exactly the same report. With this method of sharing, I do have edit access because in the workspace configuration, I said members have edit access, right? So with this method of sharing, I have solved two of issues that we had in the basic sharing. Issue number one was I could not share multiple objects. With this scenario, doesn't matter if I have 10 reports, 10 dashboards, as long as they are all in one workspace, it is already shared with my workspace members. So I share multiple objects at a time. Issue number two was that I did not have the option to share it with edit mode, with edit access to users, but with this way of sharing, I can share it with edit access. So much better compared to the method number one in these two ways. But still, this method has its own issues. What is the issues of this method? So issue number one, and the most important issue, is that actually you do not have a developer and user environment separate from each other. Right now, let's say I've created this workspace. This is the workspace I've created. And I shared it with my users. Also, I have shared it with my developer team. And the developer team are working on this content. They are changing this content. And when you when they make a change in this content, users team, because they are also looking at the same workspace, they will be affected immediately. If a developer go and delete this chart and save the report, users will be affected immediately. There is no separation between user environment and developer environment. That is the disadvantage of this method. Now, some people say, okay, I will create two workspaces, one workspace for, let's say, users, another workspace for developers, which is fine. You can do that. However, right now, we are talking about based on the features that we have available right now. Right now, you cannot move content or copy content from one workspace to another. So if you want to push some of the content from your developer workspace into your user workspace, you have to actually publish it again, which you can publish from Power BI Desktop if you've got report. But what about dashboard? Dashboard is a Power BI service only feature. You cannot publish a dashboard from desktop. You have to recreate it in the new environment. So that will create some issues in terms of maintenance of that. So because of these issues, because there is no separation between user and developer environment, this workspace is good solution for collaborative development environments, for a team of developers working together on the same number of dashboards and reports. They all have edit access and work with that. But it is not a good sharing method for end users. A lot of people in their companies use workspaces for sharing content with users. It's not a great option for that, especially because not having that separation. So what is the great solution to share with users? That brings us to the third method of sharing, which is Power BI apps. Power BI apps is a new generation of content pack. About a year and a half ago, we had the concept of content pack. Then Power BI apps came on top of it, which is the new generation. Content pack is almost obsolete now. Power BI app is a package of Power BI content together, which you can share with your users. And users of app will have read-only access to that app, obviously. And an app is always associated with a workspace. So when you have a workspace, you can create an app on top of it. Let's see how that can work out here. I'll go back to my workspace. So first, you need to have a workspace to create an app on top of it. This is a workspace. I have already a workspace and I want to create an app. On top of the workspace, I see this option which says publish app. That is, in fact, why we call these app workspaces. If you notice at the beginning, I've created an app workspace. It is called app workspace because you can create an app on top of it. Okay, I'll click on publish app. For publishing app, you have few configuration. One is what is the background of the app. This would be the background that when users log into that app, they will see this. It shows them that they are in this app or that app. You can select the background. Let's say I put this as a background with some description. This is a test app for past 24 hours. You can choose what is the content you want to have in the app. Let me go back one from this stage. You can do that when you, before clicking on publish app, in the list of your reports dashboards, there is a section that says included in app. You can turn that on or off. That means, for example, if you have 10 reports or dashboard, you can have 2 of them turned off because they are still in developer mode, and the rest turned on, included in app. Then when you publish app, some description, then when you put it on the app, it will include those in the app. Right now I have one report, one data set. That's why it is showing me only those 2. So that's how you select the content for your app. Also, you can have a landing page for your app. This would be where the user land first when they click on that app. Let's say I want them to land on this report. And then the last part is access. Do I want to share it with the entire organization or with a specific group of people? You can choose who has access to this. Let me share it with the entire organization. and click on finish. So this will publish the app for me. Now I can either email this to users and they can install that app from the Power BI, or they can go to their account under the apps section, they probably already have some apps. They can click on get apps and they will see all the apps that are shared with them, and they can select and get those apps, which is like actually installing app for themselves. So right now the one that I've shared is this one. I can click on it. It shows who created this, what is the name of the app, what is the description of that, what is the version, what time this has been updated, and I click on get it now. Then I get the app and it will come over here. I can click on the app and I land exactly on the page that I'm supposed to be landing. This is fully interactive access, but I do not have edit access as an app user. I can only interact with the report, cannot edit it. And you see the background color also visible here as well. I can see all the content that I have in my app, which is at the moment just a report and a data set. It can be more than just one report and a data set. This is a way that you can access the content from a user point of view. Now, a question that some people may have in this scenario is that can we install app automatically for users? Like, for example, when you say share it with these users, is it possible to automatically share it with users? Yes, it is possible. You have to go to your admin portal. Obviously, for that, you need Power BI administrator access. In the tenant settings, one of the configuration is push app to end users. Tenant settings, push app to end users. As you can see, this is disabled for me. If I turn it on, if I enable this, whenever I click on publish app, it automatically installs it for users, which is a good option to be enabled. I just set it disabled to usually come here in my presentations and explain what this option is. It's a good option to usually be enabled, but you need to have Power BI administrator access to access this environment. Okay, so going back to the app configuration. So what are good things about app and how this can be better than workspace? Compared to workspace, with app, you create isolation between users and developers. In workspace, they are all in one environment. In app, you have two separate environments. You still have your workspace. Users of my workspace still have edit access to that workspace. This is like my my developer environment. I have 5 developers, let's say, in my team. They are all accessing this workspace with edit access. They can play with this workspace. They can go to a report. They can even edit a report and, let's say, remove or change something in the report, save it back. Right now you see that part of the report gone, but my app users will not be affected by that at all. You can see if I go even out of the app, if I go out and click on that report again, I still see this, right? Because the app and workspace are isolated environment, right? So that creates a really good scenario for developer and user environment. You can have your developers working with the workspace, applying changes, doing those testing. Users will not be affected. And at the end, when they've done their changes, when everything is tested, they basically just update app. They basically just update app, and users will get the new content. You get the isolation of user and developer with this scenario. However, there are still a couple of issues with this. One issue is that the changes that I make in the the changes that I make in the report, in the visualization, are not affecting the users. But if I make any changes in the data set, like for example, if I remove a calculation, if I remove a table, if I add a new column, those kind of changes, which obviously you don't do that in website, you can do that in Power BI Desktop and publish again. Those changes at the moment will affect app users because the data set is still one single data set referring both to the same data set. This is something that will be fixed hopefully soon. Another issue with this app at the moment is that all of those people who are who have edit access on the workspace at the moment, they all have ability to click on update app, which can be frustrating because if a developer suddenly click on update app and finish it, then those changes will go for the users. There is no concept of app administrator. That would be definitely handy, right? So there are some issues, but apps are definitely the best way to share with end users still. There are lots of changes coming up with this. Power BI team are working to provide much better experience with this for sure. Okay. All of these methods of sharing that I talked about so far, these are methods of sharing that you need a paid Power BI license for that, because sharing in Power BI is not a free feature. Doesn't matter if you do basic sharing, if you do workspaces, if you do apps. In all of these, you need paid Power BI licenses, which is Power BI Pro, $10 US per user per month, or Power BI free account under premium capacity, which is still premium capacity is still a paid feature, right? None of these methods are free way of sharing. There is only one free way of sharing. What is that free way of sharing? That is called publish to web. Publish to web is the only free way of sharing. If you want to share for free interactive reports, this is your solution. But the thing is that this is also open to public. That means you will have a link that if that leaks somehow, if you send link to anyone without any Power BI accounts, with just an internet connection, they can access that content. This is not Power BI embedded. Lots of people think that this is Power BI embedded because it will give you an embed code. This is not Power BI embedded, totally different subject. I'll talk about Power BI embedded separately in a couple of sections after this. So let's have a look at this publish to web first. I'll go to my workspace. Let's say I go to one of my reports, something that I have here, let's say, for example, this report, right? And I want to publish this report. You can publish a report to web, not a dashboard. So let's publish this report to the web. I'll go to the file menu, and one of the options here is publish to web. And you can see it is saying that for public access by anyone on the internet, right? So click on publish to web. It will again tell you that this is publicly available for anyone in the internet. Are you okay with that? You can say, yep, I'm okay creating the code. Again, it tells you that this is publicly available for anyone in the internet. So it is definitely public. You have to be careful with that. Don't do this for confidential data sets. I have seen many people do that with confidential data. Not a good idea at all, because people outside of your company, people who have whom you have no idea they have the link, they will be able to access that. Okay, I'll click on publish. This gives me two things. One is a URL, I can send it to anyone. And another one is an iframe embed code. If I copy this iframe code and put it in any HTML page, I will have this report embedded into that. That is why lots of people think that this is Power BI embedded, which is not. Power BI embedded is a fully secure solution. This is not a secure solution. Everyone with access to that page will be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to show you the link itself. I just opened that link in another page in my browser. And if I send you this link, you would be able to access this report as well. Anyone who has the link will be able to access this report. And you can see it's fully interactive report, quite nice. And I have access to see all the pages. At the moment, my report only had one page, but if I have multiple pages, I can also navigate between pages. Everything is fully interactive. I don't need any account to log in. As you see, I just clicked on the link and opened the link, and it works perfectly fine. Also, at the bottom of this, you see all of these options. I can share it in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all different places that I want because it's basically public. Now, some people think that if they hide this part, because it's a JavaScript part, if they hide this part, then it will make it secure for them. No, it will not, because if you have someone in your audience that they can right-click on a page, view the page source, it's a iframe code embedded in that page. They just copy that and put it in another page and then share it with others, right? So even if you do those, even if you put that iframe code in your SharePoint on-prem, which is only available for your organization users, any of those methods that you do, still this can leak, right? This is a method that I only recommend if you have some users who are not, if you have some data which is not confidential data, public data set. Like, for example, you have some reports about how your company worked, very high level, nothing confidential at all. How your company worked, how many clients you served, those like kind of annual reports for public. You want to put it in your website, then you can create a report and publish it to web for that. There is a place that you can turn off this after publishing it to web. You can turn it off. So here I can go to the setting, manage embed codes. I will find those that I have published to web, then I can delete that. Delete means that delete the publish to web link, not the report itself. And as soon as I do that, then here I will not be able to access that content anymore. It will show me a message that the content isn't available. Publish to web is a setting that you have to be really careful for that. There is an admin configuration for that. You can go to the setting from Power BI admin point of view. Setting, there is a place in admin portal in tenant settings that you can turn publish to web off or on. I highly recommend configuring this correctly. Otherwise, people in your company may be able to publish the content on a web which you don't want. Or if you want to make it enabled, at least make it enabled for a specific group of people. You can also see all embedded codes published to web from your company if you have Power BI admin account. These are all embedded codes published to web. I can delete those codes, or I can see what the report is that. Okay, so that was method number 4. Method number 5 and then method number 6, I'll talk about those, and we'll leave 10 minutes at the end for doing some Q&A. So method number 5 is embed in SharePoint Online. A Power BI report also can be embedded into a SharePoint Online page. This at the moment only works with SharePoint Online, not with SharePoint on premises. To have it working, you basically need to have a SharePoint website, online website. So I'll go to my SharePoint page. While that SharePoint page is coming up, I'll go to my Power BI report as well. On every Power BI report, let's say on this report, for example, on every Power BI report, you can go to the File menu. And one of the options is Embed in SharePoint Online. This is a secure way of sharing, obviously. This will give you a link, right? You can copy this link. Then in your SharePoint Online section, let's say I create a new page, a site page. I create a site page, and in that site page, I will put it in a second. Okay, this is my page. I add an object in this page. And one of the object types you can add here is a Power BI object. Right? I click on that, and then I add a report. I will paste that link here, and that is basically how you embed it in SharePoint Online. You select the page, you do the configuration, and then this becomes part of your page, fully interactive report on a SharePoint Online page, which is really great way of sharing if you have users who are actually, let's say, SharePoint users. They are already using SharePoint as their main central place of interaction and collaboration. Then they can also have Power BI reports as part of it. Whenever you want to share this with others, first, obviously, you need to share the SharePoint page. But with this method, you need to do sharing twice. One is sharing the SharePoint page itself. In addition to that, you have to go to Power BI and share that report with them as well. These accounts need to, those accounts that you are sharing with them, they need to have obviously Power BI paid subscription, either Pro or Premium or free under Premium. And when you share it here and you share it in SharePoint, then they will be able to access that content. So it's a method that is good for users who are used to getting their content in an environment like SharePoint Online. As I said, this is only available for SharePoint Online. And the last method I'm going to talk about today is Power BI Embedded. Power BI Embedded is a fully secure way of sharing. It looks similar to publish to web when you first look at this from user point of view, but it is fully secure. For using Power BI Embedded, you need to have a web developer. You need to have your web developer interacting with an API, Power BI API called REST API, Power BI, and passing some information, doing authentication. There are a number of steps to do that authentication. There are also two ways of doing embedded, with a token, without a token. We are not going to talk about that. The embedded itself can be easily a long session to talk about. I'm just going to show you how it is possible. I'm not going to explain how to do that right now. We are just looking at the possibilities. The good thing about this method is that you can have your own custom application. In your own custom application, you can embed Power BI reports and then give access to users of your application. This can be your own user management system in your website. It doesn't need to be Power BI accounts. They can be part of your organization, or they can not be part of your organization. They can be some users outside of your organization. As long as you give them access, they will be able to see that content. You manage the access, user control of those accounts. So obviously you need to have a developer, and you need to also have a web application for that. I have a sample web application which I run. It's a ASP.NET MVC application. Again, I'm not going to explain what is happening in the code. I'm just running it to show you how it is possible and how this code is embedded, how this Power BI report is embedded in that application. So just, it will take a minute for this to come up. While this is coming up, Power BI Embedded is is a solution that is highly used by ISV or lots of software provider companies. They have users that may not be all from the same company, and this helps them in their solution a lot. So let me kick off this and get it working. I'll just bring this into here as well. Okay, so I clicked it start and it will come up in a second. It's a MVC application, and I just click to start. It should come up in a second. So what I have here, I have a custom MVC ASP.NET MVC application. This application has a number of pages, and in one of those pages, I have embedded a Power BI report as a content. There are also options to embed a tile, embed a dashboard, embed a Q&A experience. All of those are possible. In this one, I just want to show you the embed report part of it. It is taking a little bit of time, but should be there in a sec. Let me try the embed report example. As you can see, this is an application in my local host. It is not a Power BI website. It can be, this application can be anywhere. And this should have a Power BI report embedded somewhere in between, which is not coming yet. Okay, just do refresh. But even if it doesn't come up, probably it's like an authentication issue right now with my internet connection. It will be a Power BI report in the center here, fully interactive report. And because this is your own website, you can manage all the security of your website. It doesn't come up right now, which is fine, but it will be something like that. So that is the Power BI embedded experience. Now let me explain what you have seen today as methods of sharing. We talked about 6 methods of sharing. We talked about free method of sharing, which is publish to web, and it is not secure method, but it is free. We talked about methods that you can publish, and you can only publish one object at a time, which was dashboard or report sharing. We talked about methods of sharing that do not need Power BI accounts. One of them is publish to web, not secure. Another is Power BI embedded, can be really secure. We talked about separation of developer and user environment, which was actually Power BI app solution. We talked about creating developer environment, which was workspaces, and some extra options that you need. Like if you are using Power BI embedded, you need to have web developer. If you have SharePoint users, SharePoint Online users, then you can use embedding in SharePoint Online. Okay. I don't think we have enough time for me to go through the role-level security. We have a little bit of time. I prefer to use this time for more Q&A. I'll put up my slide to reference to study more, and we'll go through some questions.
Okay. Our first question comes from Bill Walter. Microsoft publishes Power BI updates frequently. Sometimes new features are added. When sharing with others, do all people that get the shared content have to have the same version of Power BI tools installed?
Good question. People whom you are sharing with the Power BI report, they do not need to install anything. They do not need to install Power BI desktop. They just use these methods that I explained to you. All of those methods are online. When Power BI updates something, it is in the Power BI website and it is updated for everyone, right? So when you share it with others, they will have exactly the same view as yours. They will see all of those features implemented for them. They do not need to install Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is just a tool for developers.
Okay. Our next question from Jennifer Hurry. Can you undo a change in the shared workspace?
Undo a change in a shared workspace. So that's quite general question. I would say what type of change? If it means, if by change it means, for example, I go to a report, edit that report, remove one part of it and save it. No, there is no way to undo that. The best way is to have a copy of your content. At the moment, Power BI doesn't give you the versioning that you have in SharePoint. In SharePoint, you get the versioning and you can roll back to the previous version. We don't have that in Power BI, not right now. Hopefully it is coming. At the moment, your only way is to redo that change.
Next question is from Bill Walter. If an app update breaks some functionality, is there a rollback of an update available?
So if a user suddenly, let's say if a developer or someone from workspace team suddenly updates an app, and if that breaks the functionality, again, there is a versioning for the app, but there is no way to roll back to the previous version. You have to apply those changes again, which is mainly because there is no ability to fetch the previous version of the app. The app versioning is available, but there's no way to fetch the previous version. That, I believe, is coming quite soon as well. Talking about apps and workspace, there are a lot of work in progress configuration coming up, which will make it much easier. It's quite a new feature, but right now you have to do this again manually.
Okay, next question from Stephen Deere. Would it be possible to password protect or set up some type of authentication so that you could use publish to web and still have user authentication?
You can put a publish to web code into your own website. You can have your user authentication, but my question is that, okay, you've done that, you put it in your website, which is fully secure. Then user log into your website and they see that page. They right click on the page, view the source, copy that code of iframe. They put it in their own web page somewhere else, in a blog post somewhere in Yahoo Answers, somewhere like that. Then it is not secure. It is secure for the person who is logging in to see your page. Your page is secure, but the content in that page can be easily found out by right-clicking, view the page source, copying it, putting in another page. So, so it is not still a secure solution. I would go for Power BI embedded if I want to do that.
Okay. Let's see. We have a, sorry, I lost my place for a moment.
Sure. While you are looking for questions, these are the QR code here will get you to the Power BI book that I have written. It's a free book, 1100 pages. It will be updated quite shortly as well. And all of those demos, examples that I told you, these links are links to my blog post explaining every single one of those in detail.
Okay, our next question is from Bill Walter. If something is published to web and it becomes very popular, is there any cost for the data being sent in and out?
You mean the, okay, so I think probably the question is, even if it gets popular, is it still free or not? It would be free. Even if your link hits like millions of views, it would be still free. And if you go to Google and search for Power BI showcases, Power BI showcases are case studies done by partners. We even have short showcases ourselves, Radicat Power BI showcases, done by partners. You can go there and find their showcases. These are all published to web codes. You can actually see those links to Power BI reports published to web. There is no charge for people who set that up, and no charge for people who are watching that content. It's all for free. That is the only free way of sharing. But again, as I said, it is not secure, but fully free, even if you have like billions of people watching.
Okay. From Stephen Deere.
Yep.
Does Power BI embedded require capacity pricing, or can it be done with small organizations using an Office 365 subscription?
So good question. Power BI embedded can be done in two different ways. Power BI embedded can be done with a token or without a token. Power BI embedded without a token means that users have to use their Office 365 authentication, similar to SharePoint Online. That is an example of Power BI embedded without token. Users have their own Office 365 account. They don't need a token. They just log in with the Office 365 Power BI accounts and they access the content. But the other option, which is with a token, this can be done with any users. This can be even not Power BI users. They can have no Office 365 accounts. They can be basically users of your web application, user management of your web application. They can be users of that, and then those users will have access to this. There are capacity settings for that. If you search for Power BI embedded pricing starts at, let's say, if I talk about monthly, it starts at about $625 per month, and it is based on page render. Different capacity planning, but it is possible.
Okay. Unfortunately, we've run out of time and we need to wrap this up. I know that we do still have some questions, and we'll see about getting them answered. In the meantime,
Yep, go ahead.
Our coming up next is in the next session is why is that data wrong? How choosing the wrong isolation level causes bad results with Kendra Little.
Yep, and for those questions that is not answered, feel free to ask your questions. I will definitely answer them all in my blog.
Okay. Thank you all for attending, and this wraps up this session.